What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Healthspan Academy. I'm your host, Craig Shearhart, and joining me today is my special guest, Lynne Knapman, who is a really strong masters athlete in the sport of CrossFit. She's a 12-time CrossFit Games athlete. She's a high school math teacher by day. She made her games debut the same year she started CrossFit, and there's not many people that could say that. And she finished 7th that year. Her career best at the games was a 2nd place finish in 2015 in the Masters division, 55 to 59. And then she followed that up with another podium finish in 2016 where she took 3rd. So we're going to talk all things about her training and kind of life balance and what life is like for a competitive Masters CrossFit Games athlete, and basically try to give some tips and stuff like that for us to function better as we get to, closer to those quote unquote retirement years. Lynne, thanks so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. My
Awesome.
pleasure.
So I've done a little digging into the athletic background, and your bio says you had literally zero athletic background. So I want to dive into that a little bit because it couldn't be literally zero. I'm sure you were walking around doing something. Talk about the specifics of that athletic background growing up and kind of young adulthood and kind of where that led into the CrossFit.
Okay. So in Australia, we don't have that sort of college sporting thing that like you lots of other people do.
Right.
So generally in Australia, until quite recently, people, especially women, would probably not do, they might compete in their local sporting events, but not much other than that. And when you if you went off to university, then that would probably be the end of it.
Right.
You might take it up again later. I grew up in a very small country town, and then in high school went to a bigger country town.
Okay.
And there were certainly opportunities to do sport. Okay. So I used to play in a local basketball team. I was an okay swimmer, but I didn't do any of those things to at a competitive level.
Right.
Really.
Just kind of recreationally. Yeah.
Absolutely recreational, and not even that much of that really.
Fair enough.
So then I go to uni and I do nothing.
Wow.
Absolutely nothing. And then get married, have 4 children, still do nothing.
Except chasing some kids around.
So literally I have no athletic background. I'm not very well coordinated. And I know that anything I have now is because I'm a high repetition sort of person. I have to do it a lot of times before it becomes automatic. I'm not a quick thinker at it. I can only do 2 things at a time, I tell my coach. So before I started CrossFit, I had got to the point where I used to run a little bit, which is quite ironic now because I actually don't really enjoy it. And I used to run on the treadmill about 3 times a week.
Oh, wow.
At 9 kilometers an hour. And so it was 20 minutes. And I used to watch the numbers tick over on the
when is this going to be over?
Love that bit. I still do love the treadmill and the numbers a little bit. And that's it. That's my athletic background.
That's wild. So yeah. And then you did you just kind of stumble into the CrossFit gym and then they saw some potential? How did the CrossFit game begin for you?
A friend of mine was having a bit of a tricky sort of time, and she asked me if I would run this city to surf with her, which is 14 kilometers.
Oh, wow.
And when I came home and told my husband, I think he was thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to kill herself and I'm going to be left with 4 children. Oh my God. And he said to me, oh, you better go and see my trainer. You should go and see my trainer. Yeah. And so I went to his trainer, which just happened to be Chad McKay. Okay. And I just haven't stopped.
Wow. That's very cool.
I did the city to surf. And then I did another sort of, I don't know, a half marathon. That's what it was. Then I did a 10K fun run. Okay. And then there was no other running event. And so I quite like used to go to see him an hour a week, quite like that hour a week. And I just kept going. And then he asked me if I'd like to do this little competition.
This little competition. That was the CrossFit Open?
Yeah, it was sectionals.
Was the Open exist back then? Oh, right, sectionals.
No, it was sectionals. Yeah. So, and I came last. Wow. Like, literally dead last out of the women. Like 45th out of 45th or 47th out of 47th.
Oh, wow.
Last.
Crazy.
And
And then, so at some point though, you realized you had some level, and obviously Chad recognized some talent when he was working with you. Talk about kind of, was there a moment where you were kind of keeping up with like the beasts of the gym? Was there a certain workout? Was there a certain lift number you hit? Or was there a moment when you decided there was no moment? You just kind of stumbled into the games? Yeah.
In the sectionals, it was, one of the events was Fran with double unders.
Okay.
Right. And I had to do 45 banded jumping pull-ups, which was incredibly difficult. Before I'd gone to that competition, he had said to me, do you want to continue? What are your goals? And at that point, my goals were to get rid of what I called my undulations.
Okay.
So like that classic hip type thing on women where you go out, then in, then out, right?
Right.
So I used to call them my undulations.
Yeah.
And I said, would I be able to do that? And he said, yeah. He said, you might not like what you have to do for it, but you'd be able to do it. So right. That's what my goal will be after this competition. And when the competition finished, I was like, nah, I don't care about those undulations. I want that pull up.
That's awesome.
And then I didn't even think about my undulations, and then they just went away.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a really common story. People start into fitness because there's an aesthetic thing, right? They want to lose or look a certain way, gain muscle, whatever it is, look good for bikini season. Yeah. And when you switched into a functional type goal, these are the beautiful moments as a coach where you're like, okay, light bulb goes off. Now we're in it for the long haul. Cause like when it's an aesthetic reason, like there's no long-term real reason to stick with it.
Because that's downhill all the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But when you get a pull-up, there's always that next step. Then there's a muscle up or a dip or what have you. And there's this whole continuum of fitness to constantly shoot for. So I love that. That's a very cool story. So let's talk a little bit about that games experience. You've been there like literally since it was kind of almost in its infancy. And you've kind of seen it develop over the years. When people talk about the CrossFit Games, what are the highlights for you? What are the first images that pop into your head?
The people.
Yeah. Incredible community. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
We have 4 children, one is special needs. So we've had lots of communities along the way, scouts and whatever. I think the CrossFit community is the most supportive community that we've ever been in.
Yeah. It is pretty unbelievable.
You don't have to be good at it for people to support you. And in fact, people are probably much more supportive of the new person.
True.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that, someone is, I don't know, gets some tiny little thing and everybody's willing to celebrate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
When my boys were younger, I put them into CrossFit. They were teenagers.
Okay.
And because I work in a school and see teenagers all the time, I remember thinking, there's no downside for this for those boys.
Right.
They have these role models who don't drink.
Yeah.
Don't do drugs.
Yeah.
They're genuinely good humans because what I've found is that mostly the people who aren't good humans can't hack it.
It's very true. There's a natural weeding out process for those
people.
There's
a sieve, right?
Yeah.
So they're very good humans. They're respectful. They're thoughtful.
Yeah.
They swear and they might have tattoos. Well, I can live with swearing and tattoos. They don't. And so I remember thinking, I am getting these role models that are outside the family that are very impressive role models. And it's a good purpose. Like, I think, and it's the same at the games. Yeah. Most of the time, people are willing to celebrate your successes.
Yeah. Yeah. It is very
and
cool.
They're compassionate about your losses.
Yeah.
They understand. I think it's the highlight.
Yeah, I think so too. I think like in a crowd as big as it's gotten, you're always going to get some kind of like not the best people in the crowd, but like there's so much in the minority and the vibes there are like unbelievable.
I don't think there's many like I'm very one-eyed.
It could definitely count. I mean, I went there only 1 year and there was a couple small like little little things on the side. There were people like rather rude to vendors, stuff like that. But like comparative to like a regular environment, like like, you know what I mean? Like a concert or something like that. It was like nothing. It was like super, super positive across the board. Everyone, I think most people are there for the right reasons and the right mindset.
The first games, I remember watching there was a muscle up workout and there was this man who couldn't get a muscle up. He would try one and he would miss. He'd almost be there, you know, that.
Yeah.
You know? And the whole stadium, like, and it wasn't full in those days, but every single person in that stadium was like, yay. And then the disappointment when he missed. And you could feel the disappointment in people. Yeah. They're not thinking, well, what's he doing? Yeah. Like, why can't he get up?
Yeah, it's so true.
Because they know why he can't get up.
Yeah, exactly. It's
they understand that that's difficult.
The fittest crowd in the world. Yeah. Very cool.
Because if you were better than them, you'd be out there.
Yeah, true. Very true. Let's talk a little bit about the training, the S&P, like your strength and conditioning, kind of like obviously this is, like I said, a little bit different, you know, full-time professional, you know, individuals, they've got the luxury of time on their side and sponsorships and prize money and stuff. It is a little different. So how like what are we looking at in terms of your training volume? How much barbell work are you doing? Olympic lifts?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm declaring
what that looks like. Yeah.
That my coach is so good. All I have to do is what I'm told.
Yeah.
Okay. So I contribute nothing except I read the programming and attempt to do the very best I can. Sometimes I make a dog's breakfast of it, but So it really depends.
Okay. Is it like kind of blocked into chunks, like periodized in like 6 to 8 weeks?
Yeah. Yes. I'm sure it is. And since COVID, I've actually been doing a class. For a long time before COVID, I didn't do classes.
Just worked one-on-one.
All individual programming, right? Mm-hmm. And then because of the gym time and space and all that sort of thing, I joined the class, which I was always a treat when I came back from the games. I always did about a week's worth of class when I came back, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And so now I do the class, and sometimes it's a little bit modified. So the boys are very particular about their gym programming. Yeah. They have a real goal about getting stronger and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, the 90% and that, you know, 87.5% or whatever. Right. And if someone writes 87.5%, for me as a maths person, I think, well, that's serious. You need to actually work out 87.5%. Yeah. Because if they didn't care, they'd write 88 or 90 or whatever, you know. So I think that's actually really important. So we do have, I probably use a barbell almost every day, probably 5 out of the 6 gym days. Okay. In some way, shape or form. But definitely I'm not sure, and this is just my feeling. So if you wanted to actually really know, you'd have to ask him.
Sure.
But apart from the squatting and the deadlifting, I'm not sure that we're working at getting me that much stronger, if you know what I mean. Like we're keeping me strong.
It's more of a maintenance. Yeah. I think that's the nice thing. But once you get strong, it's easier to program to maintain strength than it is to kind of get those extra 5 pound PRs.
My first year I got, I went over with an 80 kilo deadlift to the games, and there was a deadlift workout, 5 minutes, 1 RM, and I got 270 pounds. So from sort of 180 pounds to 270 pounds. Wow. And so, but now in the qualifiers, there was a deadlift workout and I got like 295. Yeah. So in however many years that is, it's only 25 pounds more. Mind you.
Still pretty good. It's still a pretty heavy lift.
Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah.
And also he doesn't, like 295 wasn't really in the same max as the one at the games. I was shaking all over the shop like at the games, whereas this was, that's enough. Yeah. Because it's not worth injury, basically.
Right. Yeah.
So I think, So definitely all that working the barbell and all that sort of stuff. I don't.
Your sessions like an hour, so it's 6 days a week, or they're just kind of an hour and a half, or is it just the hour class? Yeah.
It would take me probably 3.5 hours.
Okay. Oh, wow. So it's quite a bit of volume.
It is. But for instance, prior to the quarterfinals, I get at the beginning of my programming this daily mobility. So for a whole week, it's the same.
Yeah.
And that daily mobility would probably take me maybe 30 minutes.
Okay. And that's included in the 3 hours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So it's 3 hours, like including warm up, skill kind of, and mobility. Yeah. So that's, it's like still much more than most people are doing, but it's more manageable than, what you see in a games athlete.
So, I do a little bit like less maths work now because I have 2 grandchildren and I couldn't squeeze them all in. So some of the paid work had to go.
Fair enough.
And prior to that, I used to work from sort of 7:30 to 3:30, and then I trained from 4 till 8, basically, of the night time. So now I don't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I don't work as much through the day. I try and get it done early in the morning. Right.
Awesome.
So
very cool. So let's talk about leading up to a competition. Even something like, quarters. Are you kind of tapering for the last few days? Are you kind of going like through more recovery work, or what does it look like the kind of week leading up to a competition?
I think one of the things we work on, which it might be a little bit different before the quarterfinals, is often transitions and efficiency.
Okay.
So making each movement efficient.
Right.
So for dumbbell snatch, keeping it close to the body.
Yeah.
Like basically just saying to me, close to the body, close to the body, close to the body. And working out how to do things more efficiently because, it saves a second, but there's 50 of them.
True. Yeah.
So
every second counts.
So we do a lot of that sort of efficiency coming up to the quarterfinals.
Okay. Fair enough.
And also a bit more, we don't do much rope climb until it gets close to that sort of thing, So probably for the last month or so, a couple of times a week, I've been rope climbing.
Okay.
So he keeps that in mind, but pretty much it's just, apart from the transition, I think that's something that he does that, like sometimes I look at other people and I think, what are they doing? Like, why aren't they? And I feel like the reason I've been able to go for so long is because of him.
Yeah.
Because he's so conservative. And after I came back in 2011, prior to that, I used to get 2 sessions with him a week. And just before the games, I got 3. And when I came back, I kept those 3 sessions with him. And for probably 4 weeks, 3 times a week, we only did mobility.
Wow.
And that's in 2011. And I do remember having a conversation
and you didn't quit.
with him
That's
saying,
dedication, sticking through those mobility sessions.
No, I used to say to him, you're not going to get any new clients if they see you doing this. And he just said, I don't care. And then I said, well, why? Why are we doing this? And he said, because mobility is going to be your limitation.
Yeah.
And that's like 10 years ago.
Wow.
And he's absolutely correct.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And
so
I kind of learned the hard way. The older you get, the harder it is to improve it and then also maintain it. It's good to have that as a foundation. It's key, like for performance and for avoiding injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
So I sort of feel like he's my secret weapon. If I was left to my own devices, I'd be broken. And so I think one of the biggest things is the mobility and all that accessory work kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's quite a bit of that.
Okay.
I think.
Fair enough.
But definitely there's at least half an hour of mobility. Like I look and it doesn't look like it's much when it's written on the page, but if it's 2 minutes each side for something.
Yeah, it adds up.
Then, and like I used to have an impingement in my left ankle. Well, I don't have that anymore.
That's awesome.
And that makes a huge difference to like an overhead squat.
It's very cool when those things finally resolve. You're like, a lot of times mobility is just like you're beating against the wall, not getting anywhere. But when you start to notice those changes, that's when you realize how important it is, how useful it is.
Because you can keep more upright. You can do all sorts of things.
100%.
And it's just that one small impingement.
Yeah.
You think it's not much.
Yeah. But the ankles affect
But it means
everything.
you have to turn your foot out more. Or
exactly.
Yeah. So there's all those compensations.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time we did other ankle mobility, and then we got this one that just, I don't know, this exercise. I feel like he spends his spare time working out ways to torture me, actually. But and then we find one that just does the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like it just fixed it.
That's amazing. Yeah. It's always a little iterative, right? You never know how your body's going to react. And there's so many different directions you can go with mobility. When you find that one that works, it's just like a
And so now I swear by it. I think everybody should use that one.
Yeah.
But it might not work for everybody else, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? For sure. It's all specific to the individual.
So a lot of the out of the 3.5 hours, there would probably be an hour that's not what
people would consider training. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
awesome.
Cool.
So let's talk a little about nutrition. Does Chad work with your nutrition? Is that kind of up to your own devices? Have you worked with a nutrition coach in the past? Or
No.
How dialed in are you with that?
Well, right now, well, 2 days ago, pretty good.
Yeah. Let's talk more, not after you've just done a major competition. Yeah.
I had my Easter egg sitting on the counter for a whole week.
A little inspiration.
So when I first started, I was a typical sort of middle-aged woman. I just assumed that what would happen is you would just get bigger in middle age, right? And I had a very stressful job at the time, and I weighed according to my scales, which turned out to be 3 kilos light. I should have sold them on eBay, I think.
Sitting on a gold mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 69 kilos, which for me, there was no muscle there. So it was pretty pudgy. And so I joined Weight Watchers online and lost 10 kilos. So I thought I was like super good. I was down to 60 kilos,
Yeah.
So when I first met Chad, he said to me, "Oh, how's your eating?" And I said, like, I've got this thing nailed. And he said, like, "Oh, do you eat, I don't know what it was, rice, bread, pasta?" Yes.
Yeah.
And he says, And so when the first thing I did, and before the first games, I started to do the zone diet.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was pretty good at it, like had it really closely wired in.
Yeah.
And so I got down to 48 kilos.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like when I look at those photos, I think, how could I lift anything? But I sort of did it, like I wasn't really doing it to lose the weight. I was doing it
for performance. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I wasn't even thinking about how much I weighed.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I've got this,
That's such a subtle thing, but it's such a more healthy mindset when you're not relying on the scale for your kind of outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after we'd done the games the first year, he said, "Look, you have to put on weight, because mass moves mass."
Yeah.
I'm right. And so you're thinking, well, that's not hard, is it? And so my friends weren't sympathetic. They said, "Just eat cake." Yeah. And when I tried to explain, that's not the way I want. And it takes a long time, especially when you're older and you've got no muscle memory. Like it's not like I was an elite gymnast when I was young, and so the muscle's just going to pop back. You
don't have that base to pop back at. Yeah.
No. So it took a long time to get up to sort of, 53, 55.
Yeah.
1 year I went for a scan, and I hadn't been for a scan for I don't know, maybe 2 years. So when I was 48 kilos, it was like 13.5% body fat, right?
Wow.
And when I went for this scan, I was, I don't know, maybe 15% body fat, but I'd only put on like 1.5 kilos of muscle in almost 2 years.
Yeah, it's deflating when you start looking at those numbers.
I was like, what? That can't be right. Like, I'm so disappointed.
Yeah.
And he starts talking. I can't even work out what he's saying. Like, I'm thinking, what? What do you mean it's okay? And what he was talking about was the body fat. Right? Well, I don't actually care about the body fat because I know I can cut that body fat if I get the muscle with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if I had muscle, the body fat is much easier to control than the muscle
mass. Yeah.
Right.
Especially when you're doing tons of cardio. That's just, if you've got tons of volume of training, there's only so many calories that can go towards hypertrophy and muscle gains and that stuff. So it is tricky, and it's a long game for sure.
It is. But now I weigh maybe about 60 kilos, a bit over 60 now. And it's probably a little bit too heavy, but so he doesn't really, and my natural default is basically to go back to sort of zone. Yeah. I can tell 100 grams of meat within about 3 grams, I reckon, just by looking at it. Yeah.
That's the nice thing of tracking. So, you get that eyeball kind of skill, and you don't have to break out the weigh scale for every little bit you put in you.
But I often weigh it just to check that I'm right, because a bit of Chinese whispers. Oh, look, it's 150 now. So I don't really I don't track. I have tracked my macros in the past, but it's quite tedious.
Yeah, it is.
And time consuming.
Yeah, it's wild to me that people do that forever. The people are just just dependent on it, and they just they're taking their Tupperware out to dinner.
I know.
Yeah, it's wild.
But I don't care if they do it, because I think whatever works for them is fine. But I feel like I've got a limited amount of time, and that's not how I want to spend 30 minutes every day.
Yeah, that's
putting my macros in. So basically it's almost like an eyeball. In the end, if you're eating well or not. Well, I think you do. Right? Yeah. Basically we just don't eat processed foods. Meat and vegetables, fruit, nuts.
The paleo system. Yeah. Love it.
Well, awesome. It's, and I don't even think of it as paleo. I just think they're just raw foods, basically, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, obviously the system's working for you.
But I did enjoy my Easter egg.
Yeah. You got to live. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So you talked about your mobility routine. I want to get into the specifics of injury prevention and that relationship with Chad. Are you one of those athletes that needs all the info? You just kind of follow what's given to you? Does he talk specifically about preventative measures that we're adding when we do mobility, training volume? Is that just something you leave in his hands and you just trust in the process? Fair enough.
I just we've been, when I say together, he's been my trainer now or coach for 13 years.
That's incredible. It's a sign of a good coach.
So I started
when that long. That's incredible.
I started in 2009 with him.
Wow.
So and also I feel like he actually knows better of what I'm capable of in a way than I do, because I'm often doubtful. I think there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. What have you got 15 burpees for? I can't, and then I think, oh, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
So, and people and I always say to people, you've got to do this. I don't know why, but that's what I'm told all the time. You got to put your head through on the handstand push-up. I don't know why, but you've got to put your head through. Yeah. And I tell them I don't know why, and I'm happy to tell them. And and I also tell them I can only help you if you're doing the same thing wrong that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because they're the cues that I have. Yeah. Right? Although I do feel I could teach a muscle up, because I reckon there was not one cue I didn't hear.
Yeah, fair enough.
But no, I don't. I literally get that piece of paper, and he has my utmost trust. If he tells me to jump off the jetty, I'm assuming that I'm able to do it. And I've done some swimming around an island, and I'm scared of the ocean. I actually think about the sharks. I don't want to be eaten by a shark.
Open water is a different animal. It's
So I'm actually, but the way I overcome that difficulty is I count my strokes, because then my head is full of white noise that I'm not thinking shark bait as I swim around the island.
That's really smart. I've actually spoken to a few high-level athletes that do something similar in their sport. I talked to a Olympic pole vaulter this year, Annika Newell, and she was saying that to keep her in her routine, she'll count her strides while she's running up to approach the jump, which is I never would have thought of, but it's just there's nothing else. If you're just counting, there's no other issues for you to deal with, right? So
that's what I do for my double unders too.
Oh, really?
I have to count and focus. I look at one spot and I can't think of anything else. The minute I think of anything else, I get out.
Yeah.
I trip up.
Doubles are so easy to get frustrated. It's a good tactic.
Yeah.
I love that.
But so he has just
he's got to figure it out.
Yeah. And I just do as I'm told. And also because I have no background in this area, like literally I'm ignorant. Sometimes it's written on the page and I think, oh, okay. So like one day he had, I don't know, that I had to do walking lunges and then it just had brackets, I don't know, overhead, front rack, back rack, whatever. And I was thinking it doesn't have a distance and it doesn't have a weight. And anyway, it took me about 2 hours. And then when I said, like, that was a lot, he said, I just wanted you to have a little practice. Right.
That's awesome. Sometimes it is nice to have somebody just kind of to spill it out for you, right? And just kind of turn the brain off. I very
rarely undercut it. Like when I get it wrong, it's to my detriment.
Yeah.
You know, like I make it harder than, and when he tells me what it is, I think, oh yeah, I can see that.
That's amazing.
So occasionally you get that sort of thing, but it's okay.
Cool.
So he just programs every single day and I just do as I'm told.
Just read it and do it. Awesome.
And someone once asked me, like, do you ever not do it and just tell him you do it? And I said, no. One, because it would be disrespectful. And two, I think he would know.
Yeah. Those people that are catching an Uber on that 500-meter run out in front of the gym.
Yeah. Yeah. It would come out in the wash, I think.
Yeah.
So no, I don't know anything. I just read,
yeah, I love that.
90 kilos. Okay, 90 kilos.
Yeah. Lynne, let's chat a little bit about how training has changed from day one to today. You talked about a lot of mobility early on. What are the major changes? Is it like, are you really more dialed in with weaknesses? Is it more training volume? Is it more recovery? If you were compare what you're doing day to day now compared to day one, what are the biggest differences?
Okay, definitely more recovery.
Yeah.
I don't think I did anything for recovery in those first few years, really.
Yeah.
And I was younger, I suppose. Maybe I didn't need to.
Yeah.
Whereas now, like I would sauna and spar. I've done Bikram yoga before COVID struck.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that were programmed was an hour and a half of Bikram yoga.
Oh, wow.
On a Thursday. Yeah. Yeah. So, and I do not like Bikram yoga. I don't mind the heat, but it's actually quite strenuous, I think. You know, it's actually hard. And I hate it with a passion, but I actually think it's really good for us.
Yeah, it is.
And also the swimming. At first, when I used to swim, I'd, just paddle along. And whereas now I can see that the swimming is incredibly beneficial for recovery.
Yeah, I agree.
So I swim every Sunday morning quite early. And I feel like I start my week like this and my body gets hammered through the week going down. And then when I hit Sunday and I go for a swim and, the swim sometimes like that, the Sunday swimming sometimes takes me up to like 2 hours. And it's not all swimming, but I feel like it's a reset. One, it's in salt water. It's pretty cool, like as in cold temperature. For me it is anyway. And you're moving your body in ways that you don't move them in the gym.
True.
Like, when you do, when you do freestyle, you don't normally swing your arms around and round and around.
True enough.
So I feel like, yes, there's much more recovery built in, right? So probably saunaing and spa would be on there like twice a week.
Nice. Very cool.
And that's not included in the gym stuff, really. That's recreation or something. I don't know. That's not out the 3.5 hours in the gym. That's
fair enough.
So definitely. And also that's the part that I've learned, I think. Like I haven't learned that, it's a 6-week. I don't even know that it's a 6-week program in all honesty, because I don't actually care.
Fair enough.
So I haven't actually picked that up. But what I've picked up is about trying to maintain my body.
Yeah.
So I now go to see like a chiropractor, but he does all sorts of things. I see him every week, regardless. Like I have a standing appointment, half-hour appointment.
Yeah.
And my biggest thrill is to go in and say I've got nothing. Because, you know, and there's still always something to work on.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's about it being more preventative, really. So that one year, I've had two big things. One year, about, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks before the games, I popped my shoulder, popped back in. But that night I couldn't even cut the onions for dinner. And I was thinking, oh, well, that's it, gone. And then I went to this man and I was right as rain in by the time the games came around. And the other thing I had was a meniscus repair 10 weeks out, radial tear, not couldn't squat, couldn't load it for 2 weeks, and I couldn't squat below parallel for another 6. And there was only about 9 weeks to the games. Right. 10 weeks to the game.
Oh man.
I went.
Crazy. You still
and
competed.
the first time I really squatted was for the 3RM at the games.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
But I still trained. I still did stuff that, I don't know, kept me. So Chad's very conservative. If you're told that you can't squat for 6 weeks, it'll probably be 8. And you're thinking, but he said. But he's like, no, it's not worth it, right? Yeah. So I think I have a much better understanding of like how to look after my body. So sometimes I will do stuff that's not on that because I think, oh, it's a bit tight. It's whatever. Yeah. And so I'll go down and sauna or spa, or I might roller, or I might use a Theragun or whatever. So I think in lots of ways that's how it's changed, is that I'm much more aware of body care and maintenance. Yeah.
You're more in tune with how your body's feeling and performing. And,
And awesome. And also that's a focus from Chad as well. Yeah. You know?
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Lynne, I want to shift into your kind of personal fitness and what's on tap for your priorities as we get through the rest of the 22 season. We talked about a whole spectrum of things, mobility. We talked about swimming. So if we like narrow things down, what's at the top of your priority right now with your health and fitness, and what do your habits look like around that?
Health and fitness, just general.
Yeah.
I really probably should work on my sleep. The day is short.
Yeah.
So that's like for me, like I think, okay, now what should I do?
Yeah.
I think like eating and sleeping are two of the biggest because the training like
metrics. Do you have a Whoop or a
I have a Garmin.
Okay.
I've tracked since like 2012. It's all those numbers that I can't.
You're ahead of the game. That's wild.
There's all those numbers and graphs and digits.
Yeah.
Maths teachers heaven, really.
Yeah.
I like looking at other people's data too.
Yeah.
So I've tracked it. And in those days, I used to think that I got about between 5 and 6 hours sleep. And I really only got between like 4 and 5.
Oh, wow.
And now I don't know. I think that I don't actually need the full 8 hours. Like if I get 8 hours, I'm actually at some point I'm going to wake up at 2 a.m. and think, I'm done. Okay, ready. So I do think I need a bit less, although I'm a very good napper. Yeah. Like I like having a little power nap in the day, which I don't do every day, but I can sleep anywhere, basically. Anywhere from 5 minutes on is a go. If I've got 5 minutes spare, I might just
shut the old eyes, get some catch some Z's.
So I thought about this the other day. I was thinking, like even before you made contact, I was thinking, okay, so what do I do now? I still need, like, the diet is important, and the sleep is something that I can improve. When I say quite easily, actually it's not that easy, but it's something that I can actually focus on easily.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not that big a shift.
Yeah.
But I find the sleep thing is actually, as you get older, the sleep thing is actually quite difficult.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure we sleep as well as we used to.
Yeah, fair enough. Do you have a pre-sleep ritual that you do? Do you just stuff you take before bed?
I'm disgusting. And yet when I work with high school students, I can tell them, I know exactly what you're supposed to do, but I don't do any of it myself.
Fair enough.
I do not practice what I preach there.
Fair
it's
enough.
about the only place that's not true. That's like, But I hope no girl sees that. And I'm terribly sorry, girls, if you yeah. So I know I know quite a bit of theory, because that's one of the things that like teenagers struggle with.
Yeah.
Going to bed too late, too much television beforehand.
Yeah. True. Overstimulated. Yeah.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah. So they're the two things that are easily within my control, that I feel like I can make a difference with. That and the actual body care and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool.
So the focus shifts, I think, more than anything. So the training, well, for me, the training will change a bit, because you might not be aware, but I am really, really, really terrible at wall walks.
Oh, really?
Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think they would put them in a workout.
I know. That threw a lot of people through a loop, and they're no joke. They're absolutely no joke. Yeah.
Years and years ago, when we first started, might have been 2010, 2011, Miranda Oldroyd put up a thing with wall walks in it that she'd done on a boat on holidays. Right? So that was a very long time ago. And it was around Christmas, and there were only like 10 of us at the gym.
I have a couple of clients that did when I wonder if they were there. It was like they would do group trips with workouts CrossFit and stuff like that. Yeah. Maybe I wonder if they were there for that. Anyways, yeah. So you're saying she programmed
this one time after the really good people like Chad and the people that were like great. After about 5 wall walks, they've got their heads on their hands, and my husband and I looked at each other thinking, we are screwed. And anyway, never did I think. And when new people came to the gym and they had to do a wall walk instead of kicking up, I would secretly go up to them and say, hurry up and learn to kick up, because those wall walks are so much harder than kicking up. And then they turned up in that first one last year.
Yeah. And
I had to go back into the gym and say to everybody, I'm terribly sorry. I've really given you a bum steer. Like, you better learn to do those wall walks fast. So I really am terrible. And I'm also terrible at being upside down. I wasn't good at that when I was a child. What makes me think I'm going to be good at 60?
Yeah.
That just doesn't make any sense.
It's true.
And so handstand walks, terrible. I've managed to do not many in my entire life. The 1 year I did one in a qualifier workout. I was thrilled, so thrilled. And then that year this is my highlight of the games, which I'm sure for other people would be a low light. I think it might have even been the year, like when I was 59, there were only 10 people that went, right? And it was however many feet of handstand walk, and then there was an assault bike at the end, and then there was a sandbag carry. Luckily, the cap was only 5 or 6 minutes, 5, I think. Yeah. So I was thinking, well, I won't be humiliated for that long, okay? And I actually managed to get four intervals of handstand walks in that 5 minutes.
That's
I've
amazing.
Never, like, that to me is my biggest highlight. I would have been happy with one.
Yeah.
And then
incredible.
Afterwards I looked, and each handstand walk took about 8 seconds, 4 8s at 32. I don't know what I did with the other 4.5 minutes, but and my score, I came 10, and my score was cap plus 61 or 62 or something.
Yeah.
I've never been happier.
That's amazing.
Like, it's my absolute highlight
cool.
of workouts. There's
cool
so many
when
workouts.
Competition brings out those moments that just kind of pushes you beyond.
Because it was beyond
what
I thought I was capable of, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure people think, well, why doesn't she work on a handstand walks? I do. I'm just really bad.
Yeah.
And my spatial awareness
easier said than done.
Is below average.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So in this next bit, I think we'll be working on like the upside down thing. So those party tricks that I don't possess.
Those party tricks. Awesome. Well, Lynn, this has been an amazing chat. I really appreciate the time. What's the best means for people to follow more of your training and stuff? Instagram,
I do have an
Instagram to reach you.
Sorry?
Is Instagram the best place to reach you?
Yeah, I do have an Instagram account. Yeah,
okay.
And Facebook, although that's just out of control, isn't it?
Yeah, true enough.
Yeah, so I do have an Instagram account. I'm not that active though. I must confess. But yeah.
Well, we'll link to that in the show notes for you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks again for the time. It was an amazing chat.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Healthspan Academy, guys. We'll see you next time. Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in today. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. This has been a fun project. We're growing in viewership every single week, and we obviously couldn't do that without you. So thank you for continuing to tune in. I really hope you're getting value out of the programming and the content. Just wanted to give you a heads up. I've been working on a book on health and longevity the last couple of years, been collaborating with my colleague, Dr. Dan Vitale, who's an expert in the field as well. And we've basically just kind of summarized the literature, some of the techniques that we found really useful in the world of biohacking, what our exercise regimen looks like, what's, cardio type stuff is going to help us live longer and healthier, mobility work, nutrition. We've covered the whole spectrum, everything that you can basically be in control of in your health and fitness kind of moving forward to help you live as healthily as possible for as long as possible. And it's available free for download. So if you click on the YouTube banner, you'll see a link to download the blueprint. It's also on our Instagram profile or on the website. You can click on 5pillarmethod.com/optimize to get your free copy of the book. And I hope you enjoy it. Hope you're keeping well. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.